Hello, everyone. It's Kenlin, and this is the transmission on Gene Key 21 about control, the patriarchy, stepping into our authority, and really availing ourselves to a mythic archetype. Got your attention here? This is Gene Key 21, and it's this week right before the solar eclipse, new moon. It's Mercury retrograde time. So we're slowing down. You can tell my voice is off. I've been sick, and it's a time of contemplation. So I hope this serves you in your contemplation of the role of control in your life. This is really important because we either overdo it or we underdo it. Now, how many of us are recovering control freaks? Or maybe not recovering. You're still a control freak. Look, there's nothing wrong with that because I want to tell you that being controlling comes from trauma. It comes from not feeling safe. So there was something that was intelligent in your being where you decided, you know what? I can't trust this shit out here. I'm going to control it myself. Something like deep bow to you because it got you here, it got you through. And yet that wound cannot keep driving our behavior. And so what happens is we get in the spiritual path and then we hear about surrender and we're like, oh, I'm supposed to surrender. And I'm really tired of controlling. So I'm going to give it up. I'm going to release control. I'm going to let go and let God. And that's great. They're two poles. They're the equal and opposite. And what do we say about these polar opposites? That somewhere the truth lies in this middle place, just like a pendulum swings and then it finds this equipoise in the center. And that is the gift frequency of authority in this gene key. This is in the ring of humanity. So we're dealing with the stuff of humanity. And control certainly is the stuff of humanity. So it's a both and. It's not leaving our agency at the table, which is what we do when we're in this kind of swing to surrender. And we think that the divine God, the universe, will do it all for us. And we're just going to sit back and let it happen. Now, I get it. We have heavenly helpers. We have a divine team. I teach that. I love that. We have the imaginal world. And let's remember that we are in a both and dual world, that we get to remember that we have agency. So as we leave the control freakness, what we're really leaving in control freakness is controlling other people. Controlling things that are not ours to control. And how do you know? Well, because if you can't control it, then it's not yours to control. Now you can control what you do with your time, where you go, where you put your energy, what you think about, what you allow inside your field. You know, there's a lot of things in your control, and they truly are in your control. When someone, comes over and let's say someone knocks at the door and they want to start chatting with you. I just had this happen in the retreat. They came over and wanted to tell me about Jesus. And I was like, yeah, great. I'm having a retreat. It's in my control to say, and now is not the time. There was a time in my life where I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. And so I would let things go on too long. And this Aries Libra axis is not going to allow us to do that anymore. We're cleaning up the ways that we have not wanted to rock the boat because our truth is going to win out. We have to lead with our truth. And we can do it in a way that doesn't decimate other people. So on this axis of control, like control freakness and this whole surrender narrative that a lot of spiritual people can use as a bypass to taking action. I see that because I teach business, and sometimes people don't like pressure. Like, who likes pressure? But pressure is evolutionary. Pressure and stress are actually not in and of themselves bad. But when it becomes toxic to our system, then it becomes unhealthy. But that kind of pressure, like, moves us along. Otherwise, we would just stay comfortable. We would stay in the known, because that's how we're made. So we get to call ourselves forward. No spiritual bypassing. What's yours to do? So I remember I had this conversation with my intuitive, who's like a spiritual teacher to me. And I was asking her, there are some things in my heart that I would like to do in my work, but they're not showing up. And I really think I would be good at it. And I've had these thoughts before, and maybe they're just delusional. And she said, no, actually, take action on them. Go knock on some doors. And you know what she even said? Not only knock on some doors, go pick some locks. And I was like, pick some locks. I said, that flies in the face of all of the spirituality of around, especially being a projector, of waiting for the invitation. And she was like, nope, if you want this, and you definitely are on point with wanting it, go get it. Go make it happen. So these things like distinctions, prisms, like the gene keys, human design, Enneagram, astrology, they're all perspectives. They're not inherently true. Nothing is, because everything lives in duality. So how can any one thing be true unless it lives outside of duality? Like, for example, happiness and sadness are in duality. Joy to me is outside of duality. Joy has no opposite, but happiness and sadness do. And Eckhart Tolle talks about that in The New Earth, of how inside of pain is this happiness, and inside of this happiness is baked into it is suffering. So to really understand that we don't really want to play along the pendulum of duality, we want to witness that because it's going to happen, and we want to be co-created actors in our own play. So when she said that to me, it didn't cause me to believe her, and just project onto her the truth like I would onto human design or something. It caused me to contemplate and to get really clear, like, okay, I do feel those things, but am I willing to take action on them? Where do they sit in my priority levels? Where am I really headed? Where does my energy get to go? Where does my energy get to not go? And so I just determined that as much as I love that, it's not my priority for today, but it's going to sit in my heart. And I'm going to have one part of my consciousness available for that conversation when it occurs, if I sense an opening, and that I will actually build my company in such a way that I can do this thing as well. And I also, if you hear me, and I let go of the outcome, because that could also change as I build my company and I manifest the things that are here for me now to manifest. Things can change. I mean, we're going into a solar eclipse, new moon, everything's going to change. But that's just an example of how I got called forward. And, when I started to awaken in my 30s, I was an attorney and highly controlling, because that was my way of controlling my environment to stay safe. I went the other end of the pendulum, and I was seeing this therapist, and he's like, you have a lot more agency than you think you do. And I was experiencing life as the theme I kept saying is, I feel so forgotten by life. I feel so much like I don't exist. That was my core wound. And that core wound no longer exists for me. And it's part of this Aries Libra. So some of you are going to be healing that. You can watch the video that I made for the week of April 1st. And so I kept feeling forgotten But really, what I was forgetting was I was forgetting my power. I was forgetting that I had a choice and forgetting that I had a say. I'm grateful for the pause button. I just had a coughing fit. And as you can tell, I'm on the mend. But the physiology of Gene Key 21 is the lungs. So maybe it's no accident that I'm giving this transmission and my lungs are rebuilding themselves after this illness. So let's dive a little bit more into 21 and then I'll conclude to save my voice here. So the gift frequency is authority. When we really understand how to take back our power and let go of that which is not in our lane, has nothing to do with us, own our projections onto other people, get curious about our projections, check them out with others, be really mindful of what's happening over here. And then exercise the agency that we actually do have for this beautiful life that we're here to co-create. So if there's something that you want, to actually move your will in the direction of that thing, then you become an elevated frequency, a trustable frequency for this gift of authority. And that is to stand in your authority. You become trustable. This energy is very much of a group leadership energy. And Richard Rudd distinguishes it, and I love this distinguishing. He says that the 31st gift, and that's a leadership gift, is the voice of the group, where the 7th gift is the heart of the group. And the 21st gift is the will of the group. And it reminds me of politics, because what happens in 21 is that you become the leader and people give their will to you. So as a politician, we're saying, I can't go to Washington, D.C. or the capital city, but you can, politician. And so I give you my will, not for my whole life, but as my vote, I give it to you. And I trust that you will govern with my will. And Gene Key 21 people are worthy of that at the gift frequency level because they have gone through a lot of hardship to get there. And it seems appropriate because oftentimes, just like gold, I'm not gold, a diamond, probably gold too, but like a diamond, we must be pressurized and we must be like cured in the earth, which like might be pummeled. Molly McCord, the astrologer, says that we have this punch card with dark nights of the soul. I love that because it's not just one, it's several. So in Gene Key 21, you are, the will of the people is given to you and you are to take that and lead with it. So that's why it makes us really need to be aware of who we are giving this will to. And in politics, and I actually really like politics. I had a political science major because politics is really about how we choose to live together. And so far, we have been voting with the lowest common denominator, getting people in who really reflect the shadow. So let's focus on candidates who reflect more of the gift frequency, who bring in a higher level of the conversation. And there are those out there. I just was on a YouTube. Myrna and I were driving to the airport and we were listening to RFK's announcement of Nicole Shanahan as his vice president. I had no idea who she was. So we were both super curious and we were listening on our way to the airport. And her speech was just really beautiful. It felt like a sea change from the old guard of posturing and these vague marketing kind of promises to some really tangible, measurable things, and speaking to us as human beings together. And knowing that she doesn't have the answers, but she is attuned to the question. And I really appreciated her attunement to the AI question, which I think is very huge right now. I thought about this when I listened to one of the founders of Google was talking about AI. It's a video you can get. It's gotten viral, and he was talking about the future of AI and the scary parts of AI. And I was struck that the future politicians, and future being today, need to be technocrats, because if they don't understand technology, there's no way you can govern. Our world is so highly, highly AI technology driven, and that's what's wreaking havoc as well as producing opportunities. So putting a fence around it and protecting our humanity is going to be of utmost importance. So we need to elect candidates who have this frequency of gene key 21, who can carry the authority, who's worth the authority. Because here's the thing, 21 goes to the highest frequency is valor. That's Braveheart energy. That is like sacrificial service energy. This is not power grabbing energy so that you can put all your rich friends in office and exploit the shit out of the economy and all the privileges of office. This is service. And Richard Rudd even says it's nobility, it's chivalry, it's knighthood. So think about those energies. And I think about the movie Braveheart. I watched it maybe sometime last year, and I loved that movie, because here's the thing about the frequency of this higher level. When you've done your shadow work and your intention is pure, that doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. It means your intention is pure and you know where you're going, and it's in service of the collective, and you are willing to die for that. That's very samurai. You step into a mythical role. That means that you have the power available to you of the archetype. And Braveheart is an archetype. And you have the power of the Braveheart archetype available to you. However, you must also be pure. You must also be in service, and you must also have your shadow, that control shadow, worked out enough, because that is a part. You don't activate the archetype if you don't have that. You've got to have all the alignment. And that's what we don't realize about archetypes. We have the power inside of us, but we have to have all of the alignment, because it's a whole, it's like a piece of a puzzle. It's like it snaps in. And if one thing is out, it's not going to snap in. So it snaps in. And you have the power of the archetype in that moment because of the qualities of the archetype, the qualities that it demands. And the archetype of nobility, of valor, demands service. It demands self-sacrifice. So I know that when we go into the conversation of politics, and we are going to go into it, we have to, we have to. It's the reality. We're going to butt up against each other's disagreements, and we're going to butt up against each other's defenses. And I have them too. So we get to all just notice, and let's just consider that we're very young at this, that we've had a lot of Neptune influence, which is idealizing and obfuscation. Like we've been clouded. I've listened to a lot of astrologers saying that, some of our issues of why we can't get along is really Neptunian, and the cloud of like we're just not able to see. And so we make up stuff in the interim. and we call it good. And our mind does that. We like to make things up so that we have certainty. But as we mature on the spiritual path, we get to notice more things, and we get to notice our reactions, notice our defenses, notice where we feel afraid. And part of the Evolving Sisters Network, I really want to go into holding space for large social conversations where we don't debate the topic, where we actually just witness our emotional body and our physical body and our spiritual body in the conversation as we're presencing it. Because that actually is really healing. And that creates a field that just this talking and posturing is ego-based, and it doesn't do it. So there's a new normal coming through for that. And I'd like to be a leader in that. So I feel that that would be one of the contributions I would like to leave behind as part of my legacy, if I can amplify that. So you're going to see more of that in the Evolving Sisters Network. This week, inside the network, we're beginning the Gaia Codex. It's a book circle. It's a priestess circle. So if you'd like to join us, go check out Instagram. I'll also put the link below where you can sign up and join us. It starts on Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, once a week for 4 weeks. And then we're going to have the author. Now, the reason why we chose this as our first book is because it's one of those narratives of a new earth. And it's important for us right now to seed a narrative of a new earth inside our souls, to nurture it, to water it, to grow it, so that we can live it. And it's such a beautiful narrative for the divine feminine, one that we don't really have in our stories and in our consciousness after 6,000 years of patriarchy. And Gene Key 21 is patriarchy. And we're here to reclaim our feminine, because as Gene Key 21 concludes, and this is what I'll leave us all with, is that it's a very yang, masculine energy. But the truth is that this energy must be in service to the feminine. And Richard Rudd says that throughout all the Gene Keys. And I can really get enrolled with that the feminine is the leader. The masculine's the doer, and the feminine is the leader. The feminine knows the way. And how does the feminine know? Not in her shadow state. She knows from her womb space, because the womb is the collective field to the unconscious, to everyone and everything. Okay, more next week as we move into Gene Key 51 for the solar eclipse new moon. Super, super exciting, because it is the city of awakening. So all the healing, all the awakening that we are really willing and ready to receive is here for us.